Welcome to Art Television's special program of the Corporate Planning Workshop hosted by P.R. Smith. Today we have in our studio Paul Smith from UK, a specialist in planning, the designer of the SOSTAC planning model, a consultant and trainer, Mr. Chelan Gunathilaka, CEO of Mass and Timo, Mr. Graham Marshall, Head of Marketing, handling the vehicle refinishing products, and Dimantha Kohuman Wickremage, General Manager of Asset Line. Good evening, gentlemen. Paul, your first visit to Sri Lanka, two things that impressed you.
Oh, well, having just arrived here a couple of days back, I have to say, going to Galle was beautiful, really, really beautiful. You know, I'm Irish, I live in London, but I was really struck by the beauty. The drive there, past the paddy fields, the plantations, and then down to the coast and to, is it the Southern Indian Ocean?
Yep, the Southern Indian, that's right. That's right.
Splash and a paddle in the Indian Ocean, Southern Indian Ocean. That's fantastic. A stunning place, Galle, and to sit there and watch the sun go down and the fishermen go out, take their trawlers out at night. I'll remember that forever. I'm coming back. I fell in love with Galle. And the other thing, the second thing, of course, is those chuk-chuks.
The tuk-tuks.
The tuk-tuks.
Yes.
They're fascinating, and the hustle and bustle of the streets is wonderful. I love the Sri Lankan way, but the chuk-chuks, I think they make drivers to be very, very skillful drivers, because you've just got to expect those guys to come across you, and then you adjust and so on. So the chuk-chuk for me is a big hit.
Oh, that's great. And you've just seen just a small area of Sri Lanka, and I hope you will be back again soon. Yeah?
Definitely.
Paul, from yesterday's workshop, the two learnings that you could give the corporate world of Sri Lanka.
Well, I think the planning aspect is sometimes ignored. So the importance of planning, and not building plans for planning's sake, but to build plans that are actionable would be the first thing. So to make actionable plans, make them real, make them workable to get better results. So to embrace plans would be the first thing. The second thing is to embrace change, and not to fear it, but to embrace it, to love it, to work with it, to be ahead of the curve, to take away this fear, this neurotic fear of change that everybody has in every country around the world. Yeah. There's a neurotic fear of change. So to somehow break that barrier and get the CEO, from the CEO right down to the office boy, to embrace change, ask good questions, and be ready and prepared to step into the future.
Chelan, you come from a company that has revolutionized the garment industry. Your thoughts on what Paul has to say about?
I believe, there's a lot of development taking place. It's a rapidly growing country at the moment, with rapid changes happening, with a middle income country as well. I believe there is a lot we could do, and we could actually create change from a productive, to enhance productivity, and to create manufacturing feasibility through the entire resources we have within Sri Lanka. So how do we do that? There's a lot we could do. I think Sri Lanka too should come up with a framework to enhance productivity through some kind of known framework where we could enable and unleash the full potential and bring planning and manufacture together to increase productivity as a strategy for Sri Lanka.
Graham, a tricky question for you. See, this concept of planning has been there. We prepare plans, we go through them yearly. How do you see the planning process evolving, particularly from a multinational company's perspective? Is there anything different that the multinationals do that can be taken on board to the Sri Lankan companies, or is it the same?
No, well, it is, it certainly has its own style. Multinational planning is well within a particular framework that's governed by the multinational. But nonetheless, for the local market, you've got to obviously, a plan is after all a framework. Yeah. You can work outside that framework. Yes. And whatever framework you use, eventually a plan has to be executed.
Absolutely.
Right? So coming to, you can do all the planning you want.
Yep.
But if you're not there and you don't have the people to execute it, you've got problems. So one of the major issues, if at all, we have people doing a lot of planning and less execution, where some companies probably do more execution and less planning, right? There's no right or wrong answer. I think it's a balance. You have a lot of companies who plan a lot, but really are not too successful. You have a lot of companies who execute and don't plan, who don't have all these big planning manuals. So as Paul was saying yesterday, I mean, a plan should be we should be able to articulate a plan in a couple of minutes. It's then that you've got your plan, really understood your plan. Execution is important. And I think the fundamental element that governs the success of a plan is your ability to derive consumer insight, right? Your market insight, and develop your plans based on that. Because consumers are leaving trends, consumers are leaving trails of data, trails of behavior, which now, with all the technology, you should be able to pick up as insights and develop those, being able to have a certain amount of flexibility in the plan.
Super. Jimantha, you come from a company that has evolved over the years, part of the David Peters group of companies. You're heading Assetline. Is there a difference in how each subsidiary does its planning, or is there a common platform on which you all agree to plan, and then each subsidiary takes its own plans together?
Well, it's basically stemming from the motor. Parent come from motor background, and then it's interconnected. And I think with Assetline predominantly into the lending business, which also has other areas which is connected to that, the insurance industry, being insurance broking, and then the fund management and stock broking. So these are all interconnected to a certain extent. So we do plan at the head level, and then stemming from that, it's interconnected. I mean, we don't plan the motor separately, we don't plan the leasing business separately. They do their own plans, but then after a while it's connected. We do cross-check with each other. We go into in-depth planning of, because we are spread right across the country, and starting from the very basic right upwards, we need to plan. We need to see where the funding needs to come from, where we need to see how we can support them, and then the balance work in terms of the financial side also kicks in thereafter.
Okay. Paul, it's a bit of we are in transition, so to speak, and the entire world is in transition. It has been so since 2008, the financial crisis hit us. Now, the critics assert that technology has been the cause of deteriorating basic skills like teamwork, leadership, communication. We communicate less, they say, and this has affected people planning. So they just go into execution mode without a plan, and they don't know what they're executing. Your views on that?
I saw a photograph of, well, I won't tell you what it was, but the caption was, technology stops communication and creates rude manners. And the photograph was a train in America full of commuters in the 1950s, and they've all got their newspapers open and buried behind their newspapers, nobody talking to anybody. So that was the emergence of kind of print technology, changing communications. So I would say the answer is no, technology doesn't necessarily, it's just a tool, and there are new ways of communicating that we never dreamt of before. So it's up to leadership and CEOs to drive this change and embrace technology, and to use it wisely. It can be disruptive and it can be change manners and communication systems, but it shouldn't. It should open up different forms of communications. I mean, a simple one is you can Skype your grandchildren in a different country and on a different continent, so socially it can be helpful. But equally, groups working in business, you can have groups sharing ideas and networks that you could never get to before. So when social media came along, a form of technology in the 90s, it was the biggest change since the Industrial Revolution, to allow people to talk to each other over vast networks and use that information in a structured and sensible way. Those that choose to do so can gain competitive advantage. So technology really can generate savings in time, can boost communications if used in the right way, and can also add value in new and creative ways. So there is a need for analytics to be able to analyze the results of technology and use of technology. But there's also a need to use technology and digital technology creatively, more than ever before. So the two are required, and the two can create competitive advantage for businesses.
See, there's something that has concerned the Sri Lankan corporate sector. The limited use of social media whilst being at work. Yeah. Now, that has its pluses and minuses. On the negative side, I would say that the people who really want to engage with their consumer will not be able to do so because obviously they're being barred from. How is the situation in UK? Is it the same, or do they have a...
The more enlightened companies will encourage people to use it, both in two ways, both privately, because it's good to have some downtime. Very few people have a lunch break or a coffee break. It's work, work, work. So to try and find that private time is a good thing, and say, do your social media, do your Facebook or whatever at your lunch break. But during work, I mean, I would organize staff so that we have somebody in any client, we have somebody who monitors all the social media platforms for the first hour of every day or more if you have a bigger network. We'd have people that would be responding to questions coming in, problems, issues, comments, complaints, suggestions, online ideas, harnessing those in a structured way, responding to them, analysing them, and then bringing them together at the end of each day or each week. So in a structured way, social media should be used, and other forms of technology should be used in a structured way, not for work purposes, not in a haphazard way.
Thank you. We'll go in for a break, and we'll return with some valuable insights. Welcome back to the show. Going back from where we left before the break, Paul elaborated on the usage of social media and other networks while at work. Shilan, you come from a labor-intensive industry, and do you think that technology has enhanced efficiency, or is it a fusion between the human aspect as well as technology?
We believe technology has created a huge impact. You can take it plus or a minus. We believe there are three aspects to it. Firstly, we can complain about it, chill, relax, and let it affect us. Secondly, Michael, we believe you can actually embrace it. And thirdly, we can actually create change. We as MAS Holdings, we have actually realized that change is definite, and the only constant which is right now is change. And we have actually adopted the slogan saying change is courage. And we believe that if we understand what needs to be done and create the need in the market, as in identifying the unmet need, as in identifying the undermet need, and actually creating something new there, that will help us. So we have taken technology and adapted technology to create change because we want to embrace it and we want to drive change across the business.
But there is a human element that comes in.
Yes, the human element, of course, is important because as much as technology comes in, we want automation also to kick in. So the human element is the automation rather than automation. So we brought the automation factor in so that it gives that human touch and the human feel when we start de-skilling and when we start automation.
Graham, there's this thinking that you need to sort of put in X number of hours of work in Sri Lanka, particularly. It's very common. And we also have technology kicking in, and people use it. People have embraced it in some companies. How do you see, because you've been, your career has evolved through the years working for multinationals, and you've been part of CIM's education committee. You've headed it, and you've met many young people. What is your take on this? I mean, has it improved, or is it like going towards where we work hard, results are the same? Yep.
Yeah, Michael, I think, again, a question of the fact that having technology, having access to technology, having access to information at your fingertips should ideally increase your efficiency and should ideally give you less in terms of give you more time to think and plan. But what actually I think is happening is that you have so much information coming at you with your device, right? I mean, you have a tab, you have that you are bombarded with this, and unless you are disciplined enough to ensure that you don't try to respond or try and access this information 24/7, you got a problem. Then you start working unproductively. So I think all of us really need to stop reacting on impulse. You know, set aside times for probably email access, set a times for web access, set a time, you know, this, we should really control this. So in saying that, you're right, people are still working pretty hard. You would assume that it's given people more free time, but you're taking your device all over. So you're getting, you're connected 24/7. So in reality, you're not, you're switched on 24/7.
Absolutely.
So that's what's happening.
Devanta, financial services, you all are wired 24/7. You have to be. Has it affected the output, general output of, because I mean the burnout I see in young people today is huge. Your view on it?
Well, I mean, financial services are, as you quite rightly said, it's 24/7 job, and you go to bed reading some news or the other. You get up in the morning, early morning, you just go through what's happened across the other side of the world. I mean, as Graham said, the discipline need to really kick in, and also we need to find out, okay, what is best, how best can we take this forward? I mean, what are the things that we can take it, what are the things that we need to leave it out, and then leave out maybe certain portion of your time for your other activities as well. And I think Paul rightly mentioned yesterday, a lot of people do work really till late. I mean, your families are neglected, your social life is impacted. But I mean, when it comes to financial services, well, you need to keep your ears onto the ground all the time, and that's something. And also the change that is happening, the customers, the investors per se, would want you to be at that time, and also they are also informed. So sometimes, I mean, it has made our life that much easier as well, because your investor, your customer, is already informed about what has happened on certain platforms already. So you need not, you know, call them up or send them emails and say that, okay, this has happened, because it's already there.
If I could just jump in.
Sure.
I mean, the tragedy is when you see people working really, really long hours, you know, 60 hours, 70 hours, 80 hours, and unable to disentangle themselves from their work is sad, because, you know, they have families to raise, and that's as important as your job. And the world needs happy children for the next generations. So when I see people working regularly late all the time, I feel something's not right, and it possibly, and oftentimes I discover it is, the strategy is wrong. So if the strategy, the business strategy, or the marketing strategy, or the digital marketing strategy, if that's wrong, then all the next level below, the tactical stuff, people are working long, crazy hours. And when it doesn't work and the results don't come in, what they do is they try harder and work harder, and that's loyal, great staff, but burning them out. So management has a responsibility here, and senior management in particular, to build really good plans and get the heavy situational analysis, deep situational analysis, so that you know your customer insights, as you rightly say, the market trends, your competitor analysis, all that deeply done, so that the answers, when you set your objectives and then work out your strategy, it becomes crystal clear. And picking a right strategy makes all the tactics underneath it easier and more efficient and better results. Pick the wrong strategy, and you can work as hard as you like, but you just won't get there. I mean, your quote of quotes, which was, there's no point rowing harder if you're rowing in the wrong direction.
Absolutely.
So it's true, and it's sad if people overwork because management hasn't got the strategy right. So we have to sit back. I always recommend, take 2 days off a year, bring your team up the mountains, up the hills, and talk customers, talk competitors, talk analysis, and spend time using social media and all the other research tools to research and get insight.